Hey everybody, it is Rick. We're here with March Part 1 reviews. I almost called it Week 1. We're doing Part 1 of March reviews. 7 movies to talk about, including a Disney Plus movie, I believe a few movies from Hulu, an HBO Max watch, and some physical media watches this time around. So we're going to dive right in. Like I said, 7 movies to talk about for the first half of March. And the first thing I watched was a dude flick. I believe Bridget had gone away for a weekend, and I always try to watch a movie that she has no interest in when she goes away to visit family and whatnot. So the movie I chose was Cop Shop, a new movie. You guys haven't even seen me pick it up, but I got that from the Video Game Movie Dome. Spoiler for a future video that's weeks away. Directed by Joe Carnahan, who's directed stuff like Smokin' Aces and the A-Team in the past. Also, recently did the movie Boss Level, which I believe was a Hulu exclusive. Usually does really fun action films, and this was no different. Dive right into the story. Like, the movie doesn't take time to bore you with details. It is like an action film that just dives right in. And I don't feel like I'm far enough to the side, but I guess I am. So this movie, I have a note. It's fun. It's violent. It's an R-rated film. It has a sneakily great performance by Toby Huss, who plays Anthony Lamb in the movie. I'm going to hopefully remember during editing to post a photo of Toby Huss here so you guys know who I'm talking about. So hopefully me pointing at this will be a cue when I edit the video to add his picture. If not, Google, pause the video right now, Google Toby Huss, Tobyhuss. He was the highlight of this movie, a very fun character in this movie. Some of the plot is pretty predictable, but once again, a fun R-rated action violent movie that I just had a really good time watching. Cop Shop gets a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Gerard Butler is typical R-rated Gerard Butler in this movie. So that is Cop Shop. The next movie that we watched was West Side Story, the remake that was released in 2021, 60 years after the original, which is one of my favorite musicals of all time. And I start out my handwritten review, or not my handwritten, but my written review by saying, the question I need to ask is why? Why does this need to be made, honestly? Really? They're working in the hallway. Cool. I love the original film, and it's one of my favorite musicals, but this just seems like an absolutely unnecessary money grab by a studio. It is a shot-for-shot remake, pretty much, of the original. Hold on a second. Guys, I'm going to try to power through this. They're working in our hallways, and they're using a drill, so hopefully it's not too distracting. I apologize in advance. So this movie is pretty much a shot-for-shot remake of the original West Side Story. It's great to see Rita Moreno back in the film, who plays Valentina, and Ariana DeBose is definitely the highlight of the movie, who plays Anita, who Rita Moreno, portrayed in the original 1961 film. It looks absolutely beautiful. It's shot incredibly well. However, my biggest gripe is why. It just doesn't add anything to the original. The original movie still holds up. It's still a beautiful movie to watch. I gave the movie 3 stars, and it was tough for me to even rate it because I love the original so much, and this one holds true to the original, but I just don't understand why we needed this remake of a classic that still holds up with very, pretty much the same music, the same characters. I guess it was a love project for Steven Spielberg, but still just seems really unnecessary. Next up, we're going to talk about a movie we watched on Blu-ray that RJ had wanted to watch because he went through this phase where he's like, I want to check out Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. And most of Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies are not really kid appropriate. They're pretty much R-rated action films. But I said, well, we can watch the movie Twins. And he goes, well, what's that about? And I said, well, it's a movie where him and Danny DeVito are twins. And he looked at me like I was crazy. So we watched Twins on Blu-ray, the Shot Select version of the movie. And the movie offers some really good laughs. It definitely holds up. It came out in 1988. So some, 34 years after the original release. It's still pretty funny. The story is absolutely ridiculous. They keep teasing that there's going to be a triplets movie where Eddie Murphy plays their third brother, which would just be insane. I don't know if we're ever going to see it, sadly, but it would have been a fun idea to see. But the movie's quite fun, honestly. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the fish out of water who's incredibly well educated and goes to America, and he's not very street smart. Is a fun thing to watch. He has, no like real life experiences, and Danny DeVito's like this hustler who is a womanizer. It's pretty funny. Plus, let's talk about how stunning Kelly Preston looked in this movie. Yeah, I had a good time rewatching Twins. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. So Twins is definitely a fun watch. Definitely one I would recommend checking out if it's been a while since you've seen it or you've never seen it before. A fun watch. Next up, we watched a movie on Hulu, or maybe I watched this. I might watch this solo. It was a movie on Hulu called Gully. I did watch this solo. The movie has such a promising young cast in it. Jacob Lattimore, Charlie Plummer, Kelvin Harrison Jr., among some others. But the movie is just an incredibly horrible mess. And that is an understatement, I think. Basically, the three leads in the movie, the three actors I named, had all experienced very traumatic childhoods. And the movie shows them all as high schoolers who basically, they don't go to school at all. They play violent video games and terrorize locals. The movie basically feels like it wants to be a film adaptation of Grand Theft Auto in a way. And you can't tell what's really going on and what's like fantasy for these characters. And it tries to deliver a message. Not quite sure what the message is because it doesn't offer like any feedback about how bad the violence is in those things. Luckily, the movie was brief. It was like an 80-minute runtime, which is probably why I chose to watch it, because it was short and was on my list. But it was incredibly tough to get through. It gets a 1 out of 5 for me. Gully was a disappointment. So, next up, we checked out on Hulu. I think I watched this solo, too. A movie called How It Ends. So, How It Ends is an apocalyptic comedy, basically about the last day on Earth, where Liza and her younger self, yep, you heard that right, Liza and her younger self go around trying to wrap up loose ends from her life, make amends, visit family. There are a ton of familiar faces in this movie, lots of like little minor bit parts where they're in the movie for like 1 or 2 minutes. And basically she goes around with her younger self and has interactions with all these random people. And it feels like basically a bunch of small sketches that were put together, like written by different people and kind of meshed together in this apocalyptic comedy. And the humor definitely hits sometimes, but it misses more often than it hit for me. I almost got vibes of like Seeking a Friend for the End of the World in concept for this one. But the movie just didn't do much for me overall. Like I said, there are fun parts, but for most of the movie, I was just kind of indifferent to what was going on the screen. And I gave How It Ends a 2 out of 5. Not a fantastic watch for me at all. Not something I'd highly recommend checking out. Next up, we watched a new 2022 Hulu movie, and that was Fresh, which stars Sebastian Stan. A movie that takes a look at modern dating. And almost feels like it's part Get Out, part Raw, which if you've seen Raw is a crazy movie, and part romantic comedy. Basically a movie that has a really intriguing premise that keeps you like guessing, how is this movie going to progress? Where is it going to go to? What kind of places is it going to visit? But almost takes itself too serious when I think if they took like a little bit more of a darker humor approach to the horrific elements going on, that it would be better. And also, I feel like it was, as crazy as the story is, it's pretty predictable, especially for its own good for a movie like this. Sebastian Stan, as the lead actor in this movie, plays a guy named Steve. definitely, definitely good. Definitely the highlight of the film for me. But the movie also suffers from a pacing issue. I want to say it has a near 2-hour runtime, and it feels like it should probably be like an hour and 30 to an hour and 40 minutes. I just wish that it added more humor to be as ridiculous as the premise of the movie is itself. But overall, it's a fun watch. I gave Fresh a 3 out of 5. And then the last thing we checked out the first half of March was a film that is now on physical media. I actually might already own it in the collection. But it is the newest Disney Pixar film, and that is Turning Red, which we watched when it premiered on Disney+. The third Disney Pixar movie in a row to debut on this service. I will say that the next one is going to be theatrical because Lightyear comes out in like less than 3 weeks now, and that is coming to theaters. But, sorry, like I said, they're drilling like literally right outside the hallway, so I'm hoping that's not horribly loud. I do apologize. So this is my favorite of the last 3 Pixar movies, the ones that have all debuted on Disney+. So we're talking Luca, Soul, and now Turning Red. This is my favorite of the 3 of those. The movie takes place in 2002 in Canada. Focuses on a teenage girl and her group of 3 best friends. And I think that's where the movie's at its best, when it's, you know, following this girl and her core group of friends and what they do in their daily lives, even when things happen. Obviously, if you've seen the trailer, you know the premise is the girl turns into a red panda parts of the movie, and that stuff, even when she's with her friends, is still the best part of the movie for me. I think for me, what's happening with these Pixar movies is I resonate so much with the ones that I grew up with, your Toy Stories, your Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, like stuff that I was still older. Toy Story, I was 11 when it came out, but stuff like Monsters, Inc., I was, 17 or 18, but I grew up, watching that or introducing it to my son or watching it with my younger siblings. It hits different for me. So I don't know if it's, I'm aging out, I'm viewing these movies in different ways, but the last 3 Pixar movies have been like, I guess, bottom to lower third tier of the Pixar franchise. Luca being the weakest of the 3 for me, Soul being in the middle, and Turning Red, like I said, being the best of those 3. But they were good for me, like nothing fantastic or amazing. They looked beautiful. Obviously Pixar movies always look great. But the story is enjoyable. It offers laughs. It's a fun watch. It's an important coming-of-age movie that's directed towards females, which I think is an important thing. Also, different cultures are getting attention in films, and that's great to see. And I just think it's important to see in film. And I will say that I think teenage girls that were teenagers in the early 2000s will come to appreciate this movie even more so than the regular average person. So Turning Red gets a 3.5 out of 5 for me. So that is it, guys. That is everything I watched the first half of March 2022. Once again, apologies about the noise in the hallway. I'm going to ask them if they're almost done because I have a few more videos I wanted to record. So please check out the links down below in my description to my socials, as well as Letterboxd, where I rate and review all the movies I watch, my Blu-ray.com profile, my eBay store, my Amazon wishlist, my P.O. box, my email address can all be found down below in the description. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, who's down to movie?